We are now just 6 weeks out from the November midterms, and the GOP is losing its edge. A new model showing Republicans still look to pick up a majority in the House with a total of 223 seats. But that number is down from 226 seats in August, and it's within the margin of error. But on the flip side, President Biden's approval rating has dropped back down to just 39%. And with so much on the line, voter registration is painting an interesting picture for Democrats. Women turning out in unexpectedly high numbers, from Georgia to Michigan to Wisconsin. It's a pink wave in what some are calling Rovember, driven in large part by the strikedown of Roe v. Wade. While Democrats are campaigning on abortion rights and the MAGA threat to our democracy, Republicans are predictably having a tough time describing what they would actually do if in power. Here's House Republican Conference Chair Elise Stefanik.
Why not more details in this plan?
Shannon, there are ample details. So number one, an economy that's strong. The first focus on economic issues is we need to rein in inflation. We start by doing that by reining in the reckless trillions of dollars of spending that we have seen under Joe Biden and unified Democrat far-left government. Number two, lower the price of energy. I hear that from my constituents in upstate New York. Democrats have no plan. They are attacking us because they have created crises across this country.
Joining me now to get into all of it is my good friend, former RNC Chair Michael Steele. Michael, it's been a while, so I'm happy to see you, but let's start right with what Elise Stefanik just said. I didn't hear a plan. I don't know if you did. So what is the GOP's agenda? Because not even the GOP can tell Americans what it is.
No, well, I think Mitch McConnell set the tone for how they were going to approach this election when he was asked over the summer, what was the plan? What, if you get the House back and the Senate, possibly, what are you going to do? And he said, well, give us the power first, and then we'll tell you what we're going to do. That's essentially what Elise Stefanik just said. You know, it was talking points. I've sat in those meetings. I know how that was crafted. You know, the top line is, we're going to, restore the economy by reducing inflation. Okay, sounds good. So how do you do that? Since typically that's not something you can easily control nor reduce. Just ask the Fed, that's their purview. So the reality of it is it's going to be a lot of loud noise and banging of cymbals around the economy. A progressive, aggressive Democratic Party that wants to strip your rights away, not with any specificity, but just enough to scare voters into believing that if you give us the power, we're going to protect you from the Democrats. The problem for the Democrats is how do you present a counter narrative that clarifies the moment for voters, as we've seen the polling has dipped back down for Joe Biden, to say, look, yeah, despite the Republicans standing in the way, this is what we've been able to get accomplished. And if you give power back to a party that is behind the insurrection, that has not laid out a plan, what do you think happens come January of 23?
Michael, let's actually talk about substance, because you and I have had these conversations, but let's quickly listen to what Karl Rove had to say about abortion bans and the upcoming midterms. Take a listen.
Define extremist.
Well, essentially, no abortion, no exceptions.
So you mean the Texas bill?
Exactly.
Right. Do you think Texas is too extremist?
Yeah, I do.
You do. You would recommend that the legislature go back and...
I think it's going to create a real problem for Republicans in the legislature next year.
So, Michael, we've seen what can happen in states like Kansas. Even Michigan now has the right to choose up for the voters to decide, is it hyperbolic to say that abortion will be the issue in November?
No, it is not. It has been the issue since the leaking of that opinion back in April of this year. It has been something that has been galvanizing. And what has surprised many of us, particularly among pro-life elected officials, is how negligent and dangerous the Republican rhetoric has been on this subject, how offensive it has been to women. The very same women they know they need in suburban America to turn out for them. The very same women among young voters who are going to be a pivotal player this November. Going back to how you opened the segment, Katie, I mean, the reality of it is that pink wave is not being counted in polling right now. They're doing traditional modeling of polling. They're not looking at and extrapolating the effects of Kansas and what that may mean, the effect of having Republicans lose in these special elections, and the uptick, the significant uptick in the turnout models from Democrats. So it's going to be a very dynamic election. I still contend the lane is there for Democrats to hold the House, despite how you led in with the showing of the numbers at 223 seats. But again, I think that belies how the voters are looking at this election and how passionate they're becoming about it.
Talking about existing Democrats, although I use the word Democrat in quotes for this particular person, Democrat Kyrsten Sinema today spoke at an event with Mitch McConnell. Take a quick listen.
Despite our apparent differences, Senator McConnell and I have forged a friendship. While we may not agree on every issue, we do share the same values.
She is today what we have too few of in the Democratic Party, a genuine moderate and a deal maker.
You know, Michael, putting aside the mutual adoration fest going on there, what does it say that Democrats like Kyrsten Sinema are being so overt about their coziness with a Republican like Mitch McConnell, and we're so close to the midterms?
Well, she's looking at her own backyard and seeing the hits that she's taken, given her obstacles that she's put in place for the Democrats. I think the counter question to Mitch McConnell will name the Republican moderates who are willing to cut a deal with the Democrats. I mean, the street goes two ways, you know. So it's great to stand there and tout, to sort of wrap your arms around Kyrsten Sinema and think, oh, yeah, we're all close. But that's not been the play, from Republicans. Republicans have not been willing to put their moderate voices in play. In fact, a lot of those moderate senators are looking around at the landscape and say, I'm getting the hell out of here, because there is no room for the very thing that Mitch McConnell was touting there. So I get what Kyrsten's doing. It's the old, political rope-a-dope. Don't look at what I've done, just look at what I'm saying right now. But she's going to have to account for that in her own state at the appropriate time. It's, giving a little bit of cover to Republicans. That's what she's doing going into the fall, quite honestly. For those independent voters who are sitting there going, I just want people to get along and work together to solve our problems. And then flash, here we go. We got the side by side of the two of them. But that is a lie. That is not how we've lived through 24 months of that being a lie, because we've seen how that plays out when it's actually coming down to doing good policy. And all this bipartisanship has not stopped the kind of aggressive efforts on abortion. It has not stopped the aggressive efforts at the border. And her voice refuting some of that would be interesting to hear, don't you think?
I'd love to know. Michael Steele, thank you so much, my friend, for being here. I appreciate it.
All righty.
But first, Trump's QAnon gamble, embracing the conspiracy group in a new rally.